Welcome to the Tansson Talk Show. I am Brandon, the host of the show, and I am so delighted to bring you today's episode. Today, I'm very glad to speak with my guest for today, Megan. I'm delighted to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to chat with you as well. And so, first of all, how are you doing today?
Good. Yesterday, I finished my last final for the fall semester, so definitely relaxing a little bit, taking some time to just get ready for the next semester.
Well, I definitely hope that you put a lot of rest and relaxation into your winter break.
Yeah, for sure. I love spending time with my family. I have a big family. I have four siblings, so it'll be a good time.
That's really great to hear. And yeah, I mean, I'm, like I said, very excited to get into today's discussion. And so before we get started, though, I did want to allow a moment for you to go ahead and introduce yourself for those who are tuning into the show.
Yeah, awesome. So I am a junior at the University of South Carolina, and I currently serve on the PRSSA National Committee as Vice President of Professional Development. Outside of those two things, I really enjoy kind of just being with people. I'm super involved on campus, and I think that's just because I have a lot of different passions. I play club field hockey at USC, which is a sport that I had never played until college. I played lacrosse throughout all of my life, but they didn't have club lacrosse when I was a first year student, so I was like, "Oh, I'll try a new sport," and that's been a really cool way to kind of get to meet people. I'm involved in a sorority, which is super fun and definitely not something I thought I would be interested in, but I've served on exec for my sorority, which was such a neat experience, and then I'm involved in some other student organizations and things like that.
Well, that's really great. And I'm definitely glad to hear that you are very involved in both your campus and otherwise.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I definitely stay busy.
I could imagine as such. And so like I said, I'm very excited, like I said, to get into this discussion. So I first want to go ahead and ask about your role on the PRSSA National Committee, and so first of all, how would you get into your current position?
Yeah, so leadership has always been something that I am very passionate about and professional development as well. Even in high school, I was in a lot of leadership positions and um I thought it was really important to kind of not only promote my own professional development and network and things like that, but help other students kind of see the value in themselves even at a young age. Because I don't know, I think a lot of people have a lot of self-doubt when they are rock stars and capable of a lot more than they think. So that's kind of where my like passion behind it comes from, and I think it's something I've always been super passionate about. But the actual logistics of it, I didn't start as a PR major. I applied to college. Every college I applied to, I was in political science or international relations. I was really interested in like public policy and international foreign policy. So my first semester, I also wanted to be a campaign manager, which is funny looking back on it because that's just public relations. But my first semester, I wasn't really sure about my classes, and then I ended up switching over winter break into the PR major. In my first PR class, like Intro to Public Relations, the first day our professor talked about PRSSA and our university's student run firm. And those were two things I was like, I have to do that. Like no brainer. So I immediately joined PRSSA, and that year I was the only freshman in a club full of basically seniors. So that was a little awkward, but like they all took me under their wing and really showed me leadership and kind of what that looked like in college because I knew what it looked like in high school. But it was really cool to kind of see the way that this organization impacted their lives and they were going to get jobs and they had these really neat internships and things like that. And I was like, this organization is a lot more than I think it is. So my sophomore year, I got to serve as our vice president of membership and help increase membership and bring in younger students because most of the organization was seniors, um, my freshman year. And I got to like recruit and things like that. and talk to people and share my passion for PR and my story. And another thing I got to do was go to Icon, which was such an eye-opening experience. And it kind of showed me like the more that I knew this organization had, but couldn't really see, that I saw that at Icon. So in Dallas, just I tried to be as observant as possible. I felt like I was one of the few underclassmen there. But I mean, I don't know. I have never really been super shy, so I just was kind of trying to make the most out of the conference and get to meet people, network, things like that. I ended up going to speak with members of the national committee. Um, and then I heard about the VP of professional development position and was like, this fits all of my passions. One of the biggest things in my role as VP of professional development is ethics. And weirdly, that's something that I really like and care about, which is not maybe the most common thing for a college student. But I just was really drawn to the position, talked to the girl who held the position before, and decided to apply. Gave a speech at Leadership Assembly, and here I am.
That is pretty cool, though. You didn't even go in trying to be a public relations student, but nevertheless, I mean, it just sort of worked out like that. And since you mentioned that you originally wanted to be a campaign manager, like how did that come about for you?
I think it was one of those things where people tell you you're good at something, and you're like, yes, this is my passion. This is what I want to be. I never really put that much thought into it. When I was in like second grade, I decided I wanted to be president of the United States, which is so random and not a job that I really think I want anymore. Um, but it was always just something that was there. I was in student government in high school, so I also did public speaking competitions, which is again such a random thing to do. Um, but it was just it combined a lot of the things that I'm good at. And so I was like, okay, like campaign manager, like this is the only career path for me. And then I realized there are so many other cool and creative opportunities in public relations that aren't just, I don't know. They're more tailored to kind of how I am as a person and collaborative and creative and things like that and uplifting rather than like maybe tearing people apart and things like that.
That makes perfect sense, though. And I mean, and you never know. Maybe one of these days that you can like evolve your work and everything into being president of the United States. You never know.
We'll see.
But nevertheless, though, I mean, I like that what you said earlier, though, that you practically, working to want to do campaign stuff practically is like, I mean, a good pathway into public relations, and because you have to, I mean, to sort of manage so many different sides of it, because you have to understand both, what does you know, your directed audience want to see? What is it that you see in every, and even like the internal communication, external, and like, is there a specific part of public relations that you prefer over others?
I don't know. I try not to like limit myself being just a student, but I definitely have like a soft spot or passion for internal communications. And I think it goes back to that professional development leadership piece. I really want people to feel valued by the leaders of their companies and things like that. So I think internal communications is really important because I think people deserve more recognition than they're given sometimes. And like a thank you can go so far. And just kind of telling them what's going on so that they can better do their jobs. Last year in one of my classes, we had to read this book called Raving Fans. It was like a sports management hospitality class. But one of the key messages from that book was that your employees are not going to treat your customers the way that you want them to treat them if you don't treat your employees the right way. And that's something that's really stuck with me, being a person who has worked in restaurants and things that are not necessarily, the most glamorous jobs. And it's difficult when you're not being treated quite the same way that your employer expects you. to treat your customers. So that's something that I want to help people feel seen, and I think work is such a big part of life, especially in the United States. So making it enjoyable and making it something that people don't dread, as much as you can, I think is super, super important.
Yeah, that really is important. And I completely, agree with that thought because I think a lot of times we like to, I don't know, it's like we like to hold other people to a certain standard, but if we don't do this ourselves, then, what type of message are we delivering then?
For sure.
Yeah, and yeah, and you said that, of course, involvement, in your experience, is different on the college level than it was for your, high school. So taking a step back, into that. So have you always been a very, involved person from the beginning, or did that start with your high school experience?
I've always been like I'm one of those people that's always been doing something. Growing up, I played sports. Like I said, I have four siblings, so my house was always chaotic. But I like thrive in that environment. But yeah, growing up, I played sports in high school. I played lacrosse and basketball. I only played basketball for like one season, but it counts. Um, but lacrosse was truly one of my like biggest passions. I ended up winning a state championship my sophomore year, which I'm so proud of. And I was a captain senior year, and then I've had like my sports side and my like academic side. Um, so in high school, I was involved in this organization called Skills USA, which I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a career and technical like professional development organization that kind of prepares students for the workforce right out of high school. And I got super involved in that my sophomore year of high school. Um, Even though I knew I wanted to go to college, and so I kind of saw it as a professional development piece. Um that's where I did my public speaking competitions, and then I founded the chapter at my career and technical school, like satellite campus kind of. And I ended up becoming the South Carolina state president for that, which was such a neat opportunity. But also it was right in the peak of COVID, so definitely limited what I could do. But yeah, so leadership's always been super important to me, and I love being involved because I think I like just giving back to people, and helping people see their full potential, and kind of just I don't know, leadership is something that I think I will always value.
I love that, and yes, I am very familiar with with Skills USA, and actually one of my podcast guests and friends I had on earlier this year was actually went to the national level in 2019, I believe.
Oh, I think that's
But
the year that I think that's the year I was there.
and how was that experience for you? I know you mentioned it was a great professional development esque opportunity, but how was it for you, like being able to? I mean, to head there to like a national stage to do this type of event.
It was very stressful. Um, that was the first time I think I'd ever thought of public speaking in like a stressful way. I used to be super comfortable with it, and just like could do it off the cusp. And I think after I did it competitively, I started building like stress about it. But I don't know. I'm a pretty competitive person, and so it was something that I like mentally would be really worried about, but physically would try to remain composed. But it was such a neat experience. Like, I don't know how many high schoolers have had that experience. I don't think it's a lot. So, kind of getting the opportunity to travel with my school and represent my community and just compete at such a high level with other students that are so passionate was such a neat opportunity. And I remember when I got I think it was either an email or a phone call that I made it to the finals. So it was like 40 students in the national competition, and then they made a cut towards after the first round to seven students. Um, and I remember getting that message, and I was just so proud of myself because I think it was I don't know it hard work is super important to me, and that was something that I trained for so hard. Um, and so to kind of really see that come to fruition. And then I ended up getting fourth place. So, um, that was a really, really cool experience.
That is like really cool. And first of all, congratulations on that. I mean, for a fourth place in a national competition. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, it's something I honestly haven't talked about since probably I was applying to college and like wrote my essays. And I haven't really thought about it that much. So thanks for letting me think about it again.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I mean that's just so cool though that you're able to have that experience, and especially, yeah, like you said, like as a sophomore, in high school, and yeah, so to not only be a underclassman then, but to get that high on, on a national level, I think is just extraordinary, and I'm glad at least that was, not like the peak of your involvement, that you continued being, like, I mean, involved in so much different stuff after that.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It just that was kind of a moment where I was like, this is amazing. Like I want to be involved and really try to make the most out of all of the experiences that I get to have. Because I don't know, I just feel so lucky that like my hard work has been able to pay off.
Yeah, and I'm glad that, it has been able to pay off. And but continuing forward, well, actually, I'll take a step back. So since you mentioned, of course, that you had been in, club lacrosse for, for at least a good portion of your life, prior to, to college. So what brought you into, lacrosse of all things?
So my dad played lacrosse in college. My older brother started playing, one of my older brothers started playing lacrosse. I guess he was probably like 10. And I'm from South Carolina. So lacrosse didn't really exist in the South when I was growing up. Um, like I feel like it really started maybe in like 2015. Um, and so when my brother started playing, I was like, okay, so naturally I'm playing this. And they didn't have like a league for 8-year-olds. Like it was all high school or middle schoolers. Um, but I got a lacrosse stick and I just started like playing wall ball and stuff like that. And it was I don't know, it was something that was fun. I was really passionate about it, and so my brother ended up quitting, but I kept playing, and more leagues started around in my community. Um, and then in middle school, I tried out for the lacrosse team there. Got to play on like our JV lacrosse team, which was super super fun for from seventh seventh and eighth grade, and then tried out for varsity my freshman year. Made the team, and I played varsity lacrosse in high school through senior year.
That's great though. I mean, that you were able to, I mean, to get into and you know, get involved with, with lacrosse. And would you say that, going into it, I know you said that your brother was originally, playing it, but were you familiar with it, outside of just spectating, prior to actually starting?
Um, Not really. I just kind of as soon as I like realized it was a thing, I just immediately kind of became like a student of the game, which sounds so cliche. But it was just something that I found super cool, and I don't know, I don't even like remember starting, like it's just been such a part of my life for so long. And like I had played soccer and basketball and like all of the random sports growing up. Um, but lacrosse was the first moment where I was like, okay, like I'm maybe not terrible at this. And I just genuinely enjoyed it so much. And it became a huge part of my life, like throughout high school. And I think it taught me a lot of lessons just about managing situations. When I was in middle school, I played attack, which is offense, but then high school, I realized that there was going to be some open spots on defense on varsity. This is like such a random backstory, but on defense on varsity, if I wanted to play, and like get playing time and get in the games, so I taught myself how to play defense and had a lot of great coaches help me along the way. And I think that was a cool experience for me, and then kind of learning how to apply, this sounds so random, lacrosse to life. became a super big part of kind of my growing up.
That's actually really interesting. And are you able to like dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the biggest lessons that I learned is, and I had a lot of great coaches again kind of teach me these, and a lot of upperclassmen and mentors and stuff like that. But on defense, if you get beat, there are two options. You can give up, or you can fight to like get the ball back and like try to get repositioning and things like that. Like working with your teammates, communicating, asking for help. And this is like such a strange analogy, but I think by doing that in the sport, I learned how to do that in my life. So if I something didn't go the right way, I like you ask for help. You work harder to make it back. And I think like until the ball is in the back of the net, like until the other team scores, like you can get it back. Um and it's just something that I kind of use as motivation. And it sounds super corny, but I think having that mentality of, okay, something went wrong, but I can give up or I can make a change and like maybe I'll get the ball back, maybe I'll get the ball down the field, we score, like I can turn this into something great. Um, is a mentality that's just kind of stuck with me since I started playing.
That is so cool though that you were able to, yeah, I mean, to apply the, what you've learned and the logistics of the game into, your life and your own professional development in a sense.
Yeah, it's super random, but I don't know, when something that is that big of a part of your life for such a long time, it you definitely learn a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm so glad that you were able to take so much out of it. And since you mentioned, of course, that you were, playing throughout high school, I did want to ask. So since you are currently a second semester, well, you're going into your second semester of junior year for college. I'd presume that the COVID-19 pandemic would have happened during your high school experience then. And so, did that affect your involvement in playing?
Yeah, so random story, but at the practice, probably on March 12th, 2020, we had practice and I got a concussion. And um, our next game was March 13th, the next day. And I thought that was going to be my last game ever. Because that's the night COVID struck. There was talk about it, and I didn't get to play. I sat on the sidelines because I had a concussion, and that wouldn't have been good. And it wasn't bad or anything, so that's I'm very thankful for that. But I remember just being very upset about that because I thought it was not gonna. I don't know. I thought that was the end of everything, and I was a junior at the time, so I just didn't know what was going to happen. All of the seniors had gotten their season taken away from them. And there was a lot up in the air at the time. And so senior year, when I heard that we were going to be able to play again, and I was gonna like that wasn't gonna have been my last game, I think was really inspiring to me, and kind of helped motivate me, especially coming into that leadership position of captain on my team, to kind of not take things for granted. Um, that was just, like, a hard time as well because one of my former teammates passed away around that time, and she was a really big inspiration to me, and so I think, like, I just learned a lot when COVID hit, um, and I did a lot of growth, and I think that's something that I'm super, super, um I don't know. It's a difficult situation, but at the end of the day, I try to be grateful and not let it, hold me down, but kind of teach me lessons.
Well, I'm overall glad that that you at least were able to to continue for personal growth, during that time. And of course, my condolences to you and your teammates' family, for that loss. But I'm glad at least that yeah that their courage and inspiration is continuing to inspire you, though.
Yeah, they are a huge inspiration in my life. and just someone that I will always look up to. So,
Well, I'm overall glad to hear it, and yeah, and I guess when it was time to return, like back to somewhat of normalcy within within your life, how was that progression going out of the pandemic and into your final acts of high school?
yeah, I mean, my senior year was so strange because it was very COVID. Um, but me and my friends, we got so close during that time, which I think is like common with a lot of us because we had was each other. We didn't really have normal school. We didn't really have pep rallies and things like that. So we started all like playing ultimate frisbee and just doing things outside and hanging out and watching the sunrise and just really appreciating the time that we did get to spend together. Um, and ultimately, like my memories of senior year of high school aren't like, oh, we didn't really go to school every day with my friends. And like, they're not super, I mean, they're very impacted by COVID, but I think we tried to make the most out of a bad situation.
Well, I'm glad at least that I'm at least glad to hear that like you all didn't let it stop you, and that you all just continued to to progress forward and and sort of build what you can for for senior year as you're about to transition over to the next stage of you all's lives.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so for you, did you always know I guess what you wanted to do afterwards? Because I know you mentioned that while college wasn't always in the forethought of your mind, that you at least knew a general ish direction, where to go. But when did you officially find out like, okay, this is maybe what I want to do?
Yeah, I wanted to go to college. I was super passionate about going out of state, which I ended up not doing. But again, like I think everything works out for a reason. And I couldn't imagine being at a different university, but I I've always been really academically driven. School's always been super, super important to me. So college was very important to me, and getting into a good college and getting a good education are things that value a lot. And so I guess, I don't know, it's always something that I've thought about, and always something that I've really been working towards. And so it's like I remember senior year of high school, I was like, okay, well, I got into college, I'm going to college, I have a roommate, I have a dorm, like this is everything I wanted. What do I do? So that was kind of a weird moment, but I think I realized, okay, like there are things to look forward to and also just times to appreciate like in the moment. And so I've just really tried to do that since then and not, been like, okay, once I get to this one level, like everything will be perfect because it's never going to be.
Yeah, as much as we'd love for for everything to be perfect, sadly that's not quite the case. Usually, even if it's like 99% perfect, you always have that 1% over there that's like could have been better. Maybe we could have adjusted it. Maybe we couldn't have. But I mean, it. But it's a process.
Exactly. Yeah.
And since you mentioned, of course, that you originally really wanted to to go out of state. So what ultimately made you stay within the state and go to your current university?
I definitely think a big influence was just financial aid. Um, but I'd also had a lot of friends who went to the University of South Carolina, and they were very similar to me, like wanting to go out of state. But I think watching them love it here and watching them grow up here and really find their strengths, and find their passions was something where I was like, okay, maybe I'll be okay here. And I think, like, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to change my major and explore new opportunities and really like dive into everything that the school offers if I had gone somewhere further from home that was maybe a little more expensive, and things like that. So, like I said, everything I couldn't have asked for a better college experience.
I'm so glad, to hear that, and that you are enjoying your time. And out of curiosity, is the University of South Carolina far from, far or close from where you originally resided?
So I grew up about 30 minutes away, so not far at all.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. And and so ultimately, like in your transition over to it, what was the biggest adjustments that that you had going from a being very involved in high school and going to going over to college and trying to figure out the new landscape?
Yeah, so when I was a freshman, I really set a goal for myself, which this is like such a I don't know, such a me goal. But I was like, I don't want to get involved in too many things my first year. Um, which ended up being a good goal because I went to like the student org fair and like was picking up flyers from everyone and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this looks so fun. This looks so fun." Um, and so I was like, I will get involved in two clubs. I will focus on my school, um, making friends and just adjusting because even though I'm from like 30 minutes away, it was a big adjustment. I really wanted to meet people outside of my hometown and kind of just I don't know, gain those experiences that you get when you're a college student, and really take advantage of my time here. And so I um, pushed myself out of my comfort zone and everything. I only got involved in two clubs my first semester, and then ended up getting a little bit more involved as the year went on, and now here I am. Um, but I think that was a really good goal for me to have at the time because it helped me kind of adjust and realize set my own priorities. I don't know if I would have noticed that I didn't like my major if I had been so bogged down in all of these random extracurriculars. Um, plus I was just able to kind of like the two things I got involved with were the Carolina Judicial Council, which is our school conduct and like academic integrity board and the club field hockey team. So those are super different experiences, but I think they were a great way for me to meet like-minded people and kind of dive into my passions.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though that that you had set those limits for yourself, because I mean, as weird as it sounds, I feel like by having those limits, you're at least able to, for the two organizations that you do choose, that you're able to put more involvement into them, because, you're not trying to stretch yourself out, further than you probably should.
Exactly. I really wanted to make sure that I would be well adjusted. Um, because I knew it was going to be a change and I knew it was going to be difficult and I wanted to kind of give myself that grace.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, of course, that you are in, club field hockey, and so like when going into that, did you I don't know. Was it something that you were like immediately interested in or interested in trying out, or was it something that just sort of happened?
Yeah, like I mean, like I've talked about already, like sports have been such a big part of my life growing up. And with them not having club lacrosse here, my first year I was looking to other options. And at the student org fair, I talked to the club field hockey table, and one of the girls there was like, "Yeah, like I never played field hockey in high school. Like you can totally just come to practice." So I did, which is so bold, but I don't know. You know, have that like young freshman energy. And I just went. I was terrible. I didn't know how to hold a field hockey stick. But it was fun. Like it wasn't I think at that point lacrosse had gotten like super competitive for me and I was like I have to be perfect. I can't make mistakes, like whatever. And field hockey there were absolutely no stakes for me. And so I just started playing and I got some of my best friends are from the field hockey team. And like some of my best friends are friends with my friends from the field hockey. So it just I don't know, it became such a big part of that adjustment to college and just the epitome of trying new things, and not really worrying about, "Oh, like, I'm not gonna be perfect at this," and that's okay. And I ended up becoming the goalie for the club field hockey team, which I had never been the goalie for anything, so that was fun too.
That's really cool though, that I mean that you are, yeah, that you're able to have that sort of experience. And also, was it nice to finally have a bit lower stakes when it comes to sports?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think sports just at the club level, like we're super competitive, but it's nothing like the varsity level or like playing a college sport or anything like that.
Yeah, that is really good, at least that, yeah, that you're able to have a little bit more balance in there, and and have room to breathe, experiment, and try new things.
For sure.
Yeah, and so of course, with all of the different stuff that you are involved in, like how do you manage to like figure out like your time and how much you can and can't do? Because especially now being a national committee member for PRSSA of all things, like I'm sure your hands are a bit tied.
I'm a big Google Calendar user. Love an agenda. Every hour of my day has to be color coordinated and mapped out. But honestly, I think one of the biggest things to answer this question is that I do everything that I do, I'm pretty passionate about. So it never really feels like too much, if that makes sense. Which I think is super neat. And I knew stepping into my role on the national committee, that I was gonna have to give up some things and not go to as many field hockey practices, and just reprioritize my time. And that was something that I was willing to do because PRSSA is something I genuinely believe in, and really, really want to see succeed.
Yeah, that's great though that you already knew sort of the path that you wanted to go on for that. And I mean, I think that's one of the things about college is that you get to really learn about yourself, and also like what is it that I want to do and what is it that I might have to do to get there. I mean, it may not always be you know the most joyous of occasions trying to figure out, okay, well, maybe I don't have time for this or maybe I do have time for this, but the process of, what, I think I can do this and I think I'll do a pretty good job.
Definitely, yeah. And just really like prioritizing and um working hard and like just being very dedicated and committed. And like I said, like doing things you care about because I don't know, I think when people are just doing something because they're like, this will look so good on my resume, like that shows, and the passion that I feel like I have for the things that I do is really what keeps me going. And that's why I keep doing things. Because I don't know, I think it's important that I'm not doing something that I don't care about, you know?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, understand that too, because, even for like as much as I love getting involved in everything, it's like like everything I'm going to get involved in has to do something like with my interest. It may not really make sense to like everyone else, but it's like I think it's important to follow your passions and your own dreams. And so, by focusing down on what you actually want to do and not just I want to be here to be here. you know, I think it shows a little bit different determination.
Definitely. Yeah, like I just added a minor this semester, because I was gonna be graduating early, and I was like, I don't want to do that. And I just added a minor in music industry studies, and everyone in my life was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I'm passionate about music." And like I don't know, I think it's a really neat program that our university offers, and so I don't know, I think following your passions and really doing things that you want to do, and I mean even coming into the PR major, like I realized that maybe it wasn't my dream, it was what people had always told me I was good at. And so I shifted and I became a PR major, and I have never been so passionate about what I'm learning, that is so involved in like outside of my classrooms as well.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to find a minor of something that you really enjoy. And so have you been able to take any classes like within your music industry studies minor?
I will be taking them next semester, so I'll keep you updated on how that goes. But the music industry minor has like meetings, I guess, so I've gotten to go to a few of those, and they've been really cool. And it's just, I don't know, it's cool to hear from people that love music and are so passionate about it.
That's amazing. And yeah, I definitely hope that you're able to, I mean, to continue following your passions through your, your new minor and your continued, studies throughout your time in your, I guess, remaining year and a half.
For sure.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just really cool though that you're able to, I mean, that you're able to really explore these passions, and really like not limit yourself to what that what you can do. And I guess what is something that, like, outside of just the the passions that you have mentioned earlier, what is something that you like to do, like, outside of all this in your free time whenever you have any?
Um, I I like to relax. I don't know. I My roommate and I have been watching a lot of TV throughout finals weeks as like brain breaks. And we both like I've already seen it, but we both started watching How I Met Your Mother together. And that's super fun. My friends and I, for the last season of Dancing with the Stars, we would have viewing nights every Tuesday night. Um, so yeah, just kind of relaxing, spending time with friends, and like just like we would every time there was a commercial break, we would like get up and dance during Dancing with the Stars. Um, but I think just having those people that I can be around and be myself and goof off and, like not take myself too seriously because I definitely do that sometimes, is a really, really helpful way for me to relax when I'm not busy working on school or an extracurricular or things like that.
That actually sounds really cool. And for myself, as someone who did my undergrad in media studies, I really have like a deep passion for television viewing. So that's fun that you and your room are able to bond over that.
It's a good time, yeah. We've been going to bed super early too because it's finals week, so we'll watch like two episodes and it'll be like 10 p.m. and we're like, maybe we have to stay up for one more, like, but I could go to bed right now. So it's pretty funny.
I bet it is. And yeah, I mean, this has just been overall, like, I mean, so fun to, I mean, to first of all meet you, and then also to hear like so much about your passions and your own personal journey to, yeah, I mean, to getting to where you are now. And where would you say, like, where would you hope that you are, heading as you're heading into your, yeah, your final stretch of, of undergrad, and like what's next for you?
That's such an awesome question. Who knows? Um, there are definitely things that I am hoping for, looking forward to working for. But I think, I don't know, one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned is that I'm a very big, like, everything needs to be planned out in advance. I will write down like sheets of paper of my like 10-year plan. And I'm like, and every time it goes completely the wrong way. Or not the wrong way, a different way. And so I think just really like exploring opportunities and trying not to let myself get so locked in, but also knowing that it's important to be passionate and it's important to plan and have goals. Um, but definitely giving myself more grace when things don't necessarily go the right way. I would love to be able to travel a little bit more. I don't know how that'll work, but I think it'd be really neat to have a job where I can travel, and just continue with the things that I'm passionate about. I really love connecting people, and my biggest goals are just to kind of do good for the community and the people that I work with and my teams and everything like that. So just trying to be like that in the next year and a half in college, and then hopefully in a job somewhere that I am super passionate about and get to help people.
I love that mission, and I mean, it's just really fun whenever you're able to truly do something that you are passionate in, and especially in helping others. From all your work with PRSSA National to to now with your club field hockey, and and even like the ethics work that that you are doing for your judicial council there, and everything else that you're doing. And I mean, I'm just so excited to continue following your journey as you progress over this next year and a half.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed getting to talk to you. Thanks for amazing questions. This has been, I don't know, this has been such a neat experience. I've never done anything like this, and so I've just loved getting to chat with you today.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, the pleasure is all mine. And I just really, I say, enjoyed this chat. And yeah, and before I actually, well, first and foremost, I did want to say for anyone who is, viewing or listening, if they want to also continue, viewing your story, where's the best places for them to, to follow you online?
Yeah, I'm a super active LinkedIn, I guess, if that's a word. Like my friends make fun of me because it's one of my passions. But definitely follow me on LinkedIn, reach out. I'd love to talk to anybody about my experience or just help them with their own professional development or any goals that they might have. And I'd say that's like the biggest way to reach out to me. I'm also on Instagram, at Megan R. Van. So if you want to see me like playing field hockey and things like that, that's kind of where to go for that.
Well, that's really cool. And yes, LinkedIn is a tad addicting.
It's the best.
Yes, yeah. It's one of those things where it's just like we probably shouldn't spend as much time as we do on there, but we do.
We're PR majors. We're going to be on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that is so true. And before we begin closing out, though, I did actually want to say, did you have any questions for me before we begin closing out?
Um, I just think it's really neat what you're doing and just kind of how you have this project where you talk to people and kind of share their stories. I think it's really awesome. I don't know, I just think it's awesome. I guess like what inspired you to start this podcast?
That's definitely a really interesting and great question. And I would say there were numerous factors over numerous years that that went into to how I do things now. But I would say originally I was doing technology stuff because I enjoy technology in the STEM field, and in doing interviews for that, I didn't really want to focus on the technologies themselves, but rather how do the technologies influence the people who use them. And so I wanted to highlight like the individuals, like, and I think it just really evolved from there. and and so being able to see, okay, well, sure, I might be using this tool or whatever to increase my career. Well, I want to see, what is your career like, can we speak about it a little bit more? And so but here we are now, like over 300 episodes since I first started. And I mean, it's definitely been such a interesting but yeah, absolutely fun evolution. And I'm just always excited to see where it goes from here. So it's always just so rewarding.
That's awesome. Um, I guess like another question that I have is since you are a graduate student, you have that bachelor's degree, what advice do you have for people that are still in their undergrad working like me?
Ooh, I would say a biggest piece of advice is make the most of your time, but also have fun with your time. And I would say that because I think, like, especially, in the midst of finals week, it's so easy to think, oh my gosh, like, can we just get done and, get that final paper in? But at the same time, though, time moves so quickly. And before you know it, you're walking across the stage and asking, what's next? And so I think it's just knowing, okay, well, maybe we don't need a semester break to, to go after our goals. Why don't we just take little steps starting now and just go towards our goals, even if it's just a passion goal, because you never know what type of opportunities you can unlock and the amazing people you get a chance to meet. Like, even with doing this and doing my podcast, I had the amazing opportunity to meet you. So you never know what's gonna, open doors for you in the future.
That is awesome advice. This is such a neat project, like I said. But I feel like I don't know, I just want to compliment you and say that this is really so impressive, and something I'm so excited to have been such a small part of. And I don't know, it's just super neat. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Thank you so much. I just so greatly appreciate that. And last but certainly not least, as we are ending out this episode, I did want to, to flip this a bit. So, what would you like to, end out our discussion with, whether it be a life lesson, inspirational thought, whatever the case may be? The floor is all yours, Megan.
Wow. I don't know. I think the biggest lesson and something that we've talked about kind of this whole episode is learning to take things with stride. Um, it's not something that I do perfectly always. Um, but really learning how to take a tough situation or something that maybe doesn't go right, um, and making it and just I don't know, making it a lesson at least. But really seeing that just because things aren't going right in one aspect doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Um, because I think there were definitely times in my life where I had a hard time with something and I would let myself get so tunnel visioned and really not be able to see the light. But, you just keep persevering and know that your situation can change. And I don't know, like just I I think that trying to have an optimistic outlook, but also understanding the reality of some situations, is the only way to really make sure that you're living a life that's fulfilling and something that you enjoy and just really follow, like you said, like following your passions and doing things that you really care about and that are helping people and that are putting good into the world.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Megan, for, like I said, for coming on the show and like I said, and truly making a impact here. And I definitely hope that you keep in touch. And I can't wait to see what you do both now and in the future.
Thank you. Same to you as well.
Yeah. And for those watching or listening, thank you so much for tuning in as always. And I always love doing this show. And join us next week as we continue on our mission to bring people together. We'll see you next week. Take care.